We are the champions. No time for losers like Tennessee Titans. Because we are the champions of the world.
No, don't worry. I don't gloat. I don't gloat at all. I never gloat. You promised me you wouldn't do it, and now here we are.
Well, you left that open. You left it open.
Good night, everybody. Welcome into Sports Around the Bar, where, as you can tell, one of us is happier than the other. We got to see a pretty exciting Super Bowl. A lot of strong feelings, a lot of backlash isn't the right word, but what is the right word for it? A lot of intrigue. It was a good Super Bowl, though. That's what I asked for. It was a good Super Bowl. It stayed interesting all the way down to the last minute.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. First things first.
Yeah.
Was Patrick Mahomes the MVP?
No.
Who would you give him to?
Damian Williams.
You know, I might have too, but what did I tell you? What did I say to everybody on the other show? He's a quarterback. It's gonna happen.
Well, the issue is they start voting for this at the beginning of the third quarter. Like, the game's not even halfway done. They're like, vote for your MVP now. It's like, we don't even know who's gonna win.
Very true. Very true.
But no, it's another, in my opinion, a mistake by the NFL. That should never happen. Patrick Mahomes, regardless of like how great he looked at the end, the first three quarters, especially that third quarter, I mean, he looked like he had no idea what was going on with that defensive scheme. The Niners had him down pat.
And I'm going to be a little more optimistic. I feel like we're being harsh because what we've seen Patrick Mahomes do week in and week out. I didn't think he was that bad. I didn't think he was sharp. I didn't think he was great.
I'm not saying he was like terrible. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think part of it is we underrate experience.
Right.
Both of these guys were nervous, I'm sure. I mean, Jimmy G under pressure was just atrocious last night.
But you can't give the MVP of the Super Bowl to a guy
who didn't look ready.
Didn't look ready for the first three quarters of the game, and then you have the other guy on the same side that literally looked good from literally play one to the very last play of the game.
And he did. I don't know that he fit too high on the 49ers like must stop list.
He should have been.
But he definitely should have been with it. When you look at his performance, I'm silencing my phone so that we don't get another interruption. See? We're learning.
Jesus, you're just more professional every day I see you.
Yeah, I'm running out of juice too, so that's not good. Guys, welcome in again. As always, we want to get all your reaction for the Super Bowl. We're going to go over everything. And we're also going to talk about Tom Brady and that Hulu commercial. I know, Super Bowl, we're talking about Tom Brady. It's almost obligation by this point that we have to mention him at least one point. And then we're going to talk about some of the rookie awards that they gave out, whether they got the right guys, whether they didn't, as well as anything else you guys want to talk about. That's what we want to do on this Monday show. It's it's open. If you got that burning question eating at your soul, I almost said baseball, but we prefer to keep it to football. It's up to you. You got a burning question that's eating your soul alive, you throw it out there. We'll try to answer it today.
Nathan, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. It was a long time coming, man. I know Chiefs fans and all the generations of Chiefs fans. This is something we've been looking for a long time. And you know, we're a very old team. Like, we're not like, you know, the Texans or the Panthers. We've been around since the very beginning, and for 50 years. I mean, that's kind of like it's not as bad, but it's close to being like the Chicago Cubs.
Halfway there.
Yeah.
Well, at least they got, Super Bowl IV, right? 50 years is a long time to go, but you can only have one winner every year. We can't all win. We can't all be winners, as I've learned through my entire life. So, yes, man, congratulations. Like I said, I didn't have a dog in this fight. I'm glad that you got to win, and I had some 49ers friends. I had some guys rooting for the 49ers. I think you were actually my only Chief fan that I know in person. You know, I interact with a lot of Chiefs fans. Love all you guys out there. You're the only person, flesh and blood, I've met that is actually rooting for the Chiefs. That's going to change. The bandwagon, I can already feel a disturbance in the force. The bandwagon for Kansas City is about to get bigger.
We don't need them.
You're going to get them. It's not about whether you need them or not. They're showing up regardless.
Rob says Kyle Shanahan on the other side did the Kyle Shanahan thing and choked away a Super Bowl.
Is it on Shanahan? Did you feel anything? Was it the game plan?
Well, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I mean, that's kind of what the Chiefs have done all year long against all teams. Is they get you in that panic mode and makes you change your game plan. I mean, you could say he choked, but I mean, no offense, we did it against the Titans.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. It's very easy when you're facing this good of an offense, and we saw it at halftime. And we'll talk about it in a sec. That when you are falling behind, or you feel like they're starting to have success, or even not. I mean, they did a pretty good job of containing the Chiefs in the first half. They had a minute to go and didn't call their timeout because they're like, oh God, what if Kansas City gets the ball back?
Let me tell you.
Instead, they march down the field and then don't get a chance to put any points on the board.
My household was very quiet at the end of the third quarter. Trust me.
You're like, not this close, please.
Oh my God. Just make it 3 points, not 10.
Were you expecting 10 points to be on the board for Kansas City going into the fourth? That, to me, was the biggest surprise. I thought, if Kansas City's going to lose this game, there'd be 30 points on the board. And I knew it would be lower scoring. There were some 40 numbers out there. And like I always say in the playoffs, look at that under number really, really hard before you take it.
My highest was 38. My lowest was 35. So I was kind of...
I was in the 32. I was in the 30s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I said 35, 33 or something like that.
But I never counted my team out. And I know, I'm a homer, so everyone's going to be like, well, of course you did, and it's your team. But just everything that we've gone through, all these playoffs, every game that's ever been close where teams should have beat us. I mean, this is the reason why he is the MVP of this game, is number 15 just seems to always have a little bit of magic left to make it happen. I mean, he took a lot of big hits that were uncalled for, but it kind of just showed the demeanor of the rest of the team where it's like, man, he's not giving up. Why in the world are we?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. The other guy I want to talk about having a great Super Bowl is Nick Bosa. What a game wrecker. I mean, he had pressures on like 30% of his snaps, which is insane. It looked like this guy has been in the league for 6 years. It looks like he's like in the prime of his career. He was just destroying the Chiefs'
the whole
Chiefs
defensive line.
Tackle. I mean, just... Yeah.
Led by him.
Yes, yeah, I mean, the other guys were there, but it seemed like Nick Bosa on almost every play was like back there influencing stuff. He was after Patrick Mahomes. And that was my biggest concern is those guys are that good. And they're going to be that good for a while because all of them are still incredibly young. As long as the 49ers don't run into money trouble, and they might because, again, John Lynch likes throwing it around. But as long as they can avoid that money trouble and keep that group together, this could be a dynasty for the 49ers. We could see these kind of rematches. I mean, young quarterbacks.
I'm with Don Johnson, the guy we had on with us, a friend of ours who's a huge 49er fan. He couldn't be on here tonight. I mean, he said this is probably not the last time we see these two teams in the Super Bowl. Maybe not against each other, but these next upcoming years, both these teams could see an appearance again in the Super Bowl, no doubt.
And Scott says, do the 49ers know about timeouts? That's exactly our point. They were so in their own heads that they doubted their offense and said, we can't afford to let Kansas City get the ball back, even tied with a minute to go in the second quarter. I think you almost, you can't let Kansas City get in your head like that. Or this team is too good to beat you.
My family was looking at me like I was crazy. I was like, why are they not calling timeouts? And then when they did, I'm like, if they would have called those 2 timeouts, they still have a minute left on the board.
And I think that hit them too. And that might have slowed down their second half a little bit. Because they had that.
Who are you rooting for?
Yeah. They had that moment where they called timeouts and then they break a big run with Mostert on the first play. And then they throw it down the field. I think it was Samuel on the second play where he caught like a 15, 20-yard gain. And then they had the pass to Kittle as well, where you could tell they was like, why did we not call timeouts? It was terrible. Except for that like kind of miscalculation by Kyle Shanahan. I did not feel that he had a bad game. I think Jimmy Garoppolo was not ready for this moment. And that happens a lot with young quarterbacks. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is 26? Patrick Mahomes is 24. So when we're talking about Mahomes didn't have his best game, Garoppolo looked bad under pressure and everything. That's what happens to young guys. I think we underrate how important it is to have a guy that's been there and done that. I mean, Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill in the playoffs. It's not new. It's not new at all. Usually guys don't get there on the first try. You almost have to lose one before you get to win one.
I guess Facebook decided to start working. Paul, good to see you. Michael, good to see you. Nate, good to see you. Paul says he is so glad the Chiefs won. Man, I'm right there with you. Michael says, y'all will listen to me again. What y'all? I told you the Chiefs was gonna win. He did call it.
Do I just not get these comments?
No, you don't. I didn't either. Nate says he will always hate the Chiefs as a Chargers fan.
Oh, buckle up.
Ooh, man.
Buckle up, because like I said, the nightmare scenario for the Chiefs pretty much got shot today when Patrick Mahomes says, I love Kansas City. I want to stick around here forever. When I said he might leave him someday, I saw that. I was like, all right then, never mind.
Perry, good to see you. He said, so basically, Reed finally met a coach worse on the clock management than he is and took advantage of it. Ouch, Perry. But yes. Yes.
Harsh, but fair.
But fair.
If you're Andy Reid, I mean, how long coming has this been? 21 years as a head coach without a Super Bowl. It's his longest active streak for a head coach. I mean, usually you don't get 21 years if you haven't won one. Usually you get to about 10 and people are like, this guy ain't going to get it.
Well, there's no doubt about it. If he didn't keep his regular season success going, he'd probably be long out of the coaching.
And he was even successful in the postseason because he was getting to championship games. He was going to a couple Super Bowls. He just could never get across the finish line.
I mean, I always bring this up, but Lovie Smith was 10-6, and they let him go because they didn't reach the playoffs in a very tough AFC at that time.
NFC.
AFC is the Bears. Oh, NFC. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know where the Bears play. NFC.
Exactly. Yeah, and then Tampa's like, we had a great coach, and no. we didn't. I don't know how much of it is actually Lovie Smith and how much of that was Tampa Bay. Let's be fair.
But I'm just saying.
But I'm just saying.
There's when you are not consistently winning big games, the ownership of NFL teams are very short leashed.
Yes.
You don't have
especially
a very
today.
long leash.
Especially today.
You only the big, like the Patriots, the Steelers, and so far it seems like the Bengals and the Cowboys are the only ones that really have kept. Well, I guess you said the Packers too have really kept long-term teams like coaches for long-term.
Especially recently, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
I'm trying to think what other teams have done it, but I think everything else has kind of changed around. I mean,
Titans with Jeff Fisher 300 years ago.
Yeah.
Now these days we're back on everybody else's schedule where you get like 2.5 maybe years before we're ready to go and punch you and get somebody else in here. Although I think Vrabel will be around here longer than 2 years. AFC Championship, we're good for another 20 years, right? Back to 8-8, boys. Back to business. But let's go back and talk about the Super Bowl a little bit more here. Was there any point in time where you were watching this game that you felt like Kansas City, I don't want to say wasn't ready to win the game, but did it feel like they came out slow for you? Did it feel like they weren't necessarily the same team they've been all year?
Yeah.
Because to me, the past couple games especially, I'm like, they're almost turning into a ball management team. They don't seem to be taking a lot of shots down the field. Everything seems to be about clock management and chewing up and shortening the game.
I think that's a lack of our good play on offensive line. I mean, you saw our offensive line just get torn apart.
Yes.
Even against the Titans, which, no offense, don't have that great of a pass rush, but you guys ripped our offensive line apart.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. I think I made that point going into the Super Bowl, yeah.
I think it's an issue. I think it's something they're going to have to pay attention to during this offseason. But as far as what this team looked like, again, we'll say going into the fourth quarter, my household was quiet. And it was a lot of going, man, it's going to end like this, huh?
Yeah. That's true. And Austin brings up a good point. He says Pete Carroll has been in Seattle for a decade, but then again, he's also been to multiple Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So
and
that helps.
And think about before that. They were on the carousel of coaches. So I thought about him. Trust me, I thought about it.
Ryan says rookie awards were a joke, and I can't agree more. I mean, Kyler Murray, really, dude? We'll talk about that in a minute. Before that, Dalton says, really sad, but it was a good game. So we appreciate the sportsmanship, Dalton. I think you're a 49ers fan, but forgive me if you're not. I agree. It was a good game. I asked for it to stay competitive and to stay competitive all the way through. I watched down to the last minute or whatever. I watched them kneel and everything. When I wasn't like, oh no, what if Mahomes messes this up? But even that has some intrigue where they were taking timeouts and everything.
Game management. Well, Patrick Mahomes is doing it right. When they first were going to kneel, he was backing up, and the rest were like, "What are you doing, kneel?" And he's like, "The clock."
Wasting time. Yeah,
He's like,
because they were using their timeouts. Yeah. No, I agree. I had no problem with that, and I know it led to the coaches not shaking hands because Andy Reid felt like Shanahan shouldn't have been using his timeouts and should have just given up. And Shanahan was probably like, "Hey, look, something could happen.
Yeah,
like this is my job, right? We fight to the end." So I understand the bad blood between both of them at that point because on both sides of that equation, I could be upset.
Is this a new rivalry?
Well, good thing is they don't have to see each other for a while unless you make it to the Super Bowl again.
Do we have these?
I don't know.
I don't know either. We just face the North. It's a good possibility.
You probably do. I think the Titans play the North this year and then probably go on the West the year after that. So that sounds right. All right. Well, maybe it is the next.
East, but the West.
Maybe it is the next great rivalry cross conference. We could see Chiefs 49ers just back to back. I don't know. The NFC is so good. I can't even say that even with this great of a year for the 49ers that they're just they're going back to the Super Bowl or they're going to constantly be there. Because there's so many great teams. Kansas City looks poised to just run this AFC forever. Like, if Tom Brady retires tomorrow and Ben Roethlisberger retires, it's game over, man. It's game over.
Hey, Michael, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I really do. It means a lot. Scott says the 49ers defense started out fast, then slowed down.
I think they got tired.
And that's, one of the things I was going to bring up was when you have an athletic quarterback like Mahomes who usually can read pressure. He had a couple moments where he was not reading pressure properly. That wears out your defensive ends who definitely have very quick movement speed. They move quickly. That wears them out. And that when the Chiefs changed into a fast-paced offense where they were not huddling up, you could see the wear and tear of that 49ers defense.
And just running with these guys like Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. I mean, as much as I don't like Sammy Watkins as a receiver, you have to admit physically he's one of the most gifted receivers out there. And he's the guy that never quite put it together, right? Then you have Mecole Hardman that's got so much speed and everything. And Robinson's not that slow. They have so much speed in there. End of the game, most cornerbacks are going to be gassed.
When they changed the hurry-up offense, you could see how tired the 49ers defense was.
I agree. And they spent just a lot of time on their heels in the fourth quarter, too. And, yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with you. The defense ran out of steam, but it's hard for that not to happen to anybody. I mean...
And then it goes right back and leans on to why did the 49ers get away from the run?
Yeah, like you said. KC gets in their head.
Exactly.
And maybe, just maybe, this offseason, people go back, they'll watch the tape and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should have kept running the ball. But I don't know, man. It's tough. It's easy for us to say that now. But in the moment, when you're the coach on the sideline and you're like, man, I would really like to score again so I don't have to worry about this so much, because we all want that cushion. Yeah. We all want that. I want to be up 2 scores so I have a little bit of breathing room. When you get like that, you're like, well, how do I get up 2 scores? Historically, you throw. Yeah. Historically, you play more aggressively.
I'm going to answer this. I'll let you answer. Dalton says, what was our thoughts on Sherman last night? He played one of his best years ever. He gave up one big play, and people are ready to just ring him out and say he's useless. He was your best corner all year long. And I never played defensive back in the NFL, but I can tell you right now, there's not one corner ever in the history of the NFL that has never got burned one time. And realistically, when you look back at it, I guarantee you that was his biggest gain against him all year long. Sherman has been on fire. To move on from him would be crazy. Do you need speed? Yeah, he's not fast, but it doesn't matter. When he can cover up one side and keep all the opposing team's gains to short gains, don't move on from this
I think
guy.
The other one was the Damian Williams tackle. It was kind of embarrassing when you look at the pylon camera where he could have probably reached out with his arms and tried to mess with Damian Williams' legs and instead kind of like face planted a little bit. And so there were a couple plays, sure, and he's not the guy that's running with Tyreek Hill. You're 100% right on that. Yeah. I couldn't agree with that more. You're not throwing him out because he gave up one catch. And again, to Tyreek Hill. But this is not a fast corner, and he gave up a big play to Tyreek Hill. Oh, no, that's never happened before.
He's also not a guy that's going to lay out players either.
Yeah, well... He's still pretty physical for a corner, but you're right. He's not a linebacker. I'm with you. And cornerbacks aren't on the field to tackle. That's all I can say. Every time I hear somebody complain about a guy doesn't tackle well at corner, I'm like, well, it's pretty much not his job. I mean, you get kind of frustrated when you can't bring the receiver down or slow him down to get some help from the safety. But when you're saying, why did my cornerback not just lay out a running back? Again, it's not their job. I think we're being way too critical on Richard Sherman because it's Richard Sherman. And when you're that loud... When things are going right, it amplifies your success, and when things go wrong, it amplifies your failures. Like people want to take shots at Richard Sherman. He should absolutely come back. He had, like you said, statistically one of his best years on the field, even beyond the numbers. He looked amazing all year long. But you took a cover 3 corner and asked him to play a little bit of man coverage. He's out of his element, and he gave up a bad play. It happens. Michael, especially in today's NFL.
Michael, before I get to your comments, Dalton, I also asked what's our opinion on Damian Williams' pylon touchdown that was reviewed and called a touchdown.
I think it was close enough they had to leave it.
I agree.
I wasn't crazy that the receivers, and this is not just the Chiefs, this is the RPO in general. It allows the receivers to block further down the line. I think it should have been a penalty. And you said, let's not talk about that tonight, and I'm okay with that. I think it should have been a penalty because the receivers were blocking further down the line, but I think Damian Williams is probably in and you have to leave the touchdown.
Yeah.
But that's every RPO. That's the Ravens. The Saints run it with Taysom Hill sometimes. Pretty much anyone that runs an RPO, because it looks like a run, the receivers get away with blocking down the field. And I think the NFL should look at it this offseason.
Yeah. We'll get all into the off-season rule changes and all that, and I'm with you. It was too close not to call it the other way. He broke the plane. You could say he was out of bounds where he broke the plane, or you could say it the other way. Again, it was too close to tell, man. But who says 1 inch that they weren't going to punch it in anyways? I mean,
and all those cameras, we didn't have a good look at whether he was actually over the line before the foot stepped out or vice versa. Because there were some angles I was like, it looks like the ball is over the plane right as the foot steps out. And then there's other ones where I'm like, it looks like he's not even close. It looks like he's a yard short. Yeah. So, not maybe that short, but you get what I'm saying.
Right. He was an inch shorter where he was in. It's tough. Michael says he's disappointed, but when we went from 4-12 to 13-3 in a trip to the Super Bowl, he wouldn't guess this is a big turnaround just year one. He says he's very proud of this team.
And I know people are coming down hard on Garoppolo because he did, in my opinion, wilt a little bit, especially under the blitz. That's something that you need to look at going forward.
Our offensive line played well.
Yeah, I think Garoppolo again, people are coming down too hard on him. He's the difference. We talked about this forever. If you could get a healthy year, we're like, this team's ready to go. Or at the very least, this offense is ready to go with Kyle Shanahan. Here's the thing, and here's what we haven't talked about. It took Matt Ryan 2 years to really learn Kyle Shanahan's system. With Jimmy Garoppolo, next year might just be that explosive year where if you look at Matt Ryan, he had his MVP season after the second year healthy playing under this system with Shanahan. Shanahan himself has said it takes a while for guys to fully grasp what I try to do. I think the sky's the limits for this team. You might see Jimmy G get even better going forward.
Well, I was on that bandwagon before they even got together. I said Jimmy G is a top 10 quarterback in this league. He might not put the numbers up, but I think he can lead teams further into the postseason, and he just proved it to me. And when you have a coach like Kyle Shanahan, you put weapons in there. Look at what the difference of Emmanuel Sanders was in the middle of the season. Can you imagine what it's going to look like with off season with Emmanuel Sanders? And who knows what they're going to do during the free agency? They go out and get other players. What about a second tight end? I know that's not really Kyle Shanahan's system, but I mean, it could happen.
It absolutely could happen, and I think more than that. I mean, it could be more receivers. It could be anything, really. You could go buff up this defense. Go get another linebacker. I know they have Warner, who's amazing, and they spent a lot of money on the guy from Tampa, whose name I can't think of right now. Great run stopper. But what if they go and just get like one of the best linebacker course, Quan Alexander? Thank you. What if they go after some safety help? I mean, this team is only poised to improve. I think the Chiefs are in the same boat where. I think the Chiefs, they're going to come up. They're going to have a bunch of cap space still because they got Mahomes on that cheap contract. They've got a couple pieces. This is this window for the Chiefs. Both of these teams might look even scarier in 2020 than they did in 2019.
It's a good possibility.
Usually you see these teams peak, and then you're like, oh, well, this is how it's all going to fall apart, Rams style. And then, I look at these teams, I'm like, they're young.
Atlanta or
they have a lot. Yeah, exactly.
Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm like, they're young. They have a lot of great talent on them, and especially a lot of their talent is young. They're not all young. Like you said, the Chiefs aren't the youngest team out there, but Frank Clark's young. He's not going anywhere. Tyreek Hill's young. He's not going anywhere. You got Mecole Hardman, who seems like he's budding and going to be that Batman to Tyreek Hill's Robin eventually. These teams are poised. They have all of their stars in the prime or before of their career. They're going to be scary going forward.
Justin, good to see you. Say rooted for me the whole entire time. Thank you. He said comeback champions. They kind of seemed like they were, huh? 24 and then 10-10. They came back all 3 games. Pretty crazy. I don't know.
Comebacks. I was like, I don't know. What do these numbers mean?
I don't know if that will ever happen again.
That far behind from 3 teams, yeah.
Not all 3 games. That's
a pretty good run.
Might never happen again.
Might not. Absolutely. I agree with that. Anything else you want to talk about in the Super Bowl before we move on? Like I said, this is your moment, Drew. Don't let it pass you by.
No, I already did my gloating at the beginning.
I noticed. Because you're like, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to be me.
You looked at me, and I was like, all right, I'm totally doing it.
I always pause to make sure we're on. You knew what you were doing.
I'm right there with you, man. My last thing, and it's just going to be more about what everyone's talking about right now, is paying Patrick Mahomes. I know a lot of people are saying he should give a team-friendly deal and let his players stay there. I disagree.
Usually doesn't happen on the first one.
I disagree. I think the guy should get completely paid what he deserves. He's not like Tom Brady. His wife doesn't make 4 times the amount of money that he was going to make. You take all the money you can, and then when you get a little bit older, then you cut back, and then you allow them to bring in some talent. This guy deserves all the money. He deserves to be the highest paid player. I really hope he kind of does like a Russell Wilson kind of contract where it's a percentage of the cap. So as the cap goes up, he isn't getting just more and more money. It's going to be a percentage off that cap, which is a very friendly team deal, especially being the highest paid.
Depends what that percentage is. Because that means you could get a much higher raise than the statistical.
If you were going to take 15% of the cap, I'm just throwing a number out there. If you were going to take 15% of the cap and you stay at 15% of the cap, that's exactly what I'm saying. You know what you have to deal with. It's not like if the cap stays flat and you're going to get an increase anyways, that's when it hurts the team.
One thing I will say is outside the NBA, and this is the biggest can of worms we could talk about. This is a very long and very complex debate, so I don't want to go all the way into it because we'll be here for 38 hours tonight. But what I will say is this. Outside of the NBA this season, we have never seen a sport league actually decrease its cap yet. And it doesn't look like the NBA is going to continue with that. So when you offer... The nice thing right now is when you give that guy that big deal is 4 or 5 years down the road. It's cheaper because of that. There was a point in time where everyone was saying, Kirk Cousins, that contract's going to break the Vikings back. And that was like 2 years ago. that could eventually break the Vikings back. It's fully guaranteed. They can't get away from it. And then over time, Matt Stafford was the same way. Matt Ryan was the same way. And then over time, it becomes less and less of a burden because that cap number goes up. When you give them the percentage of the cap, that burden doesn't ever change. That burden stays the same because their contract will increase proportionately with the actual.
You should look into Russell Wilson's contract. It's actually he is the highest paid player in the NFL.
Well, there's a reason they didn't give it to him. They didn't give him the you get the percentage of it. They gave him just flat money.
When you look at his contract, it's still a team-friendly deal.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm with you that it won't be a team-friendly deal with Mahomes, and it probably shouldn't be. The first one never is, right? I mean, Brady, back in the day, usually that's like the back half. That's the back nine of my career, where maybe my skills are starting to decrease a little bit, so I want to have the better team around me. If you're Patrick Mahomes, I'm 25. I'm 26. I'm 24. A great quarterback. Right now he's 24, but I'm talking about like when he signs this deal. I'm going to be good for a while. I'm just going to go get my money right now, and I'll count on you to bring in the weapons and me making them work because I'm going to be going into the prime of my career.
Will, good to see. He says he's ready for the Bucs 2020 season. Justin says the Chiefs stuck around without Mahomes for a few weeks. He did. They definitely did.
Stuck around. They beat the Vikings and almost beat the Packers. Is that sticking around?
Yeah.
That's not sticking around. Like, sticking around is like we beat Denver. No offense, Denver fans, but you know what I'm talking about.
Dalton says George Kittle is... I think he meant to say OP.
Offensive pass interference. He's saying, what's our opinion?
Oh, well, I can read.
No, I get you. It gave me a pause, and I thought about it for a second because I was going to read it, but we're doing our thing. But go ahead. You first.
You extend your arm. That is what it tells you. You cannot push off a player and extend your arm. When he extended it that second time, by book, that's a pass interference.
Yeah, I think by book is pass interference, but everything shades of gray. From a neutral perspective, I think it was incredibly soft. I think it was a bad call. I think they should have let it go, but they called it. Again, I don't think it was so outlandish that I was like, wow, that was... I wasn't like, man, they have, not Booger McFarlane, Jerome Boger calling this game, that was just like a phantom call, but I was like that. I probably would have let it go. I would have kept the flag in my pocket if I was a ref.
And I understand that, and it makes sense, but by the book, that's what you call it. And we all know this.
The moral of the story is call your timeout.
Yeah.
Is what I can say. Call your timeout when you have 1:08. I get they got afraid that they were going to give the ball back, but...
All this year has been just a giant cluster, you-know-what, of pass interference calls. And when you look at the rule book and what they look to call, you extend your arm regardless if it's this or if it's this. It's pass interference. I mean, that's what it is.
But I do understand where you feel a little cheated when you look at what Kyle Rudolph did against the Saints, and you're like, they let that go. And then I look at what George Kittle did because
that was a bad call.
He didn't stiff arm him. It was much lighter than that, but that's okay. Justin, going back to his comment, he said
real quickly before that comment. I just want you to know that was Swanson that was on him, so he probably didn't have to
wasn't
do
gonna
that.
Stop it anyway.
He probably could have caught it anyway.
I feel like Swanson had a great playoff. I know you're down on him. I feel like his playoffs were good. Maybe the regular season wasn't, but I feel like he had a good set. He played well against the Titans. He played well against the Texans. Yeah. I saw a lot of great plays on him. I saw some special teams play. I think he had a great 3-game run. He didn't start
until Thornhill got hurt. I just want you to know that.
Sure. Well, okay, but next man up, Drew. For a backup safety coming in, playing against George Kittle, I think that was great. I think we're splitting hairs here. Yeah. Justin goes and says he wasn't saying that before when he was talking about Mahomes and them not skipping a beat. He didn't slow them down or mess up any team chemistry. I agree. I absolutely agree, and I think that's been the most amazing thing about this Chiefs run is even with Patrick Mahomes and as great as he's been, we've seen Alex Smith be great. Historically, Alex Smith has not been a great quarterback outside of Andy Reid's system. We've seen Matt Moore, who looked good in Miami. I think he was underrated in Miami. Also looked great and played two of the best teams in the NFC and go pound for pound with them. I 100% agree with you. It was fantastic for them to survive without Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I live kind of in the Chiefs' kingdom with all my family and friends. There was something special about this team, and I think those weeks really showed it. Michael says it was the right call on the offensive pass interference.
That's big of you. I especially playoff football, like I said, I leave the flag in my pocket. But I think you're right. By the letter of the law, it was probably offensive pass interference.
Yeah.
I won't even say probably. By the letter of the law, it was offensive pass interference. But it's kind of like holding, where it happens a lot, and you can probably not throw the flag all the time, too. So I appreciate you saying that, Michael, though. Especially coming from a 49ers fan, that's how you know he's being, pretty judicious with his...
Good night, Dalton, man. You have a good night, man.
Absolutely. Will, always on the Tampa Bay. He's always the guy standing on the deck, firing those cannons for him.
Blasting them cannons.
Exactly. He says
shooting them cannonballs.
He's got numbers for us. Numbers here. He says Winston $25 million, Shaq Barrett $12. That might be optimistic. Nassib $6, Minter $2, Conklin $11. Also incredibly optimistic. Someone's going to give this dude 17 or 18 to be a tackle, and it leaves $34 million for draft picks and other free agents. You won't need that for draft picks.
You don't need that much.
You're going to need somewhere around $8, $9, $10 million for draft picks.
So
depending on how high you draft.
If you're going to be realistic, you'd be talking about Shaq probably 19, Conklin about 18.
Do you want to give Shaq Barrett a $19 million contract for an extended period of time?
Yeah, because you're the Buccaneers, and that was your whole past.
I mean, he was great this year.
Yes.
He was great this year. You could say it kind of faded off. It wasn't the same at the back half as it was at the start.
You can do the incentives where you're like, hey, if you don't perform, you can.
19 turns into 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. I'm with that, but Conklin is not getting an $11 million contract. I think I think someone's gonna break the bank for him. Left tackle.
I mean, he's pretty fair on the rest of them.
We saw what Trent Brown got, and I don't think Trent Brown is as good of a tackle as Jack Conklin is, to be fair. And Trent Brown, again, even though he didn't beat Luan in the numbers totally, he beat him by the amount of money per year that he got. I think things always go up in the NFL. I think Jack Conklin might be the next guy to break that. And maybe I'm being a little biased as a Titans fan, but again, this guy has been a fantastic right tackle. He had a bit of a dip in year 2 and 3, but great contract year, great year as a rookie where he was an all-pro as a rookie tackle. Someone's going to pay this guy.
Yeah.
I think if you give him 11, someone's going to give him 17. Yeah. That's okay, though. We will continue on. Again, why don't we talk about Tom Brady? Are you ready to move on? Is there anything else you want to hit on the Super Bowl?
No, if you want to talk about it.
Did you see the ad? Because this is also Super Bowl related. Because beforehand, it was the black and white picture of him saying, like, oh, thanks for everything. And then it turned out to be a Hulu ad. Has there been a greater deception than Tom Brady, where he comes out and says, I'm not going anywhere? Come on. Don't get everyone's hopes up like that for an ad.
He's not retiring, is what he's saying.
You think so? See, I read that, and I'm like, I'm going to be playing in Foxborough. And I said he should. The rumors are now out that the Patriots are prepared to offer him a 2-year, $60 million contract, pay him $30 a year, which he has not taken for a long time. When we said team-friendly, Tom Brady was the guy leading the charge on that, him and Drew Brees. They were taking those $22 million contracts and gave you $8 extra million to spend on somebody else.
Yeah.
If those days are over, can the Patriots compete? I think a lot of these teams have benefited a lot from Tom Brady saving them some money.
Can the Patriots compete without Tom Brady?
I'm saying, like, can they get to the Super Bowl? Can they win a Super Bowl? If now Tom Brady is saying, I want 30 instead of 25. I want 30 instead of 22.
I'm going to say this. I don't think Tom Brady's the engine anymore that makes the Patriots go. It's Belichick.
I don't think he's the guy he was. But I think if they add some speed at receiver and they add some guys that can make stuff happen after the catch.
Can you bring in someone like Andy Dalton?
Someone like Laviska and all. No, I'm not saying with Andy Dalton. I'm saying with Tom Brady.
No, I'm saying bring in someone like Andy Dalton.
Well, you could do that too. But I'm saying from the mid-range game, I think Tom Brady can be great because he still has the accuracy. He still has the decision-making and the reading of the defense. I think that's the best form of the Patriots we're going to see. The problem is, to get that, you got to have the money to pay the guy in free agency because you don't want to bet it all on a rookie wide receiver. They did that last year with N'Keal Harry. And what did it get him?
Well, he got hurt.
And wasn't good when he was out there before.
He did a couple good plays.
And he wasn't good when he was out there before.
He had a couple good plays.
Okay. And he wasn't a first-round receiver. How about that?
Then again, I'll say it. I cut your ties with Tom Brady. Let him walk. Let him go. Bring in someone like Andy Dalton. Why not? Belichick is a mastermind.
Robert Kraft would never let that happen. And I think we've already seen that with Jimmy Garoppolo. That was the plan, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's move on from the old guy and bring in the young quarterback. Instead, what we got is Robert Kraft saying, I'm going to die before I let Tom Brady leave. And I think that's going to happen. I think if Tom Brady said, give me $45 million, the Patriots would pay him $45 million.
So crazy.
I think Robert Kraft...
Let him walk.
I mean, then again, you look at what he's done for the franchise. Are we in a Kobe scenario where, like, it doesn't matter if he just, like, decays and he's just the worst quarterback in the NFL because of what he's done? Are we just going to keep him around?
Kobe never really decayed.
Well, he was bad at the end. Kobe, like, the last couple of years, he was not... He wasn't Kobe anymore. How about that? The Lakers weren't very good as a team. I'm not going to say that it was entirely on Kobe. Like, they were winning championships without him, because that is not true. They were a bad team. But they kept him around too long, and that's my point. They have that kind of loyalty that the Patriots will keep Tom Brady around for too long? I think so, yeah. I think yes. I think Robert Kraft is not letting this guy go. I think as long as Tom Brady wants to be the Patriots starting quarterback, Tom Brady will be the Patriots starting quarterback. Bill Belichick's wishes be damned.
I think Patriots fans hope not. Will is going back to the numbers.